Morning. In this Sidra of Pinchas, I would like to show you how our sages tell a detective story of one of the most significant events that happened during the 40 years in the desert, almost unknown and not explicitly referenced in the text, but Hashem left us subtle clues that if we pay close enough attention, we'll see how we can actually reconstruct this entire dramatic story. I want to show you the clues and I want to show you how we tie it all together. So we start with looking at the census. We look in Sidra Pinchas, there was a plague at the end of last week, and often after a terrible event that has taken many lives, Hashem does a census to show that every person who remains is precious to him. And it's easy for us to read it and say, another census. After all, it's the book of Numbers. There are plenty of censuses. But I say that if you look very carefully at each thing that's mentioned, you'll discover some startling things. And the first question is, where is everybody? Not everybody, but some people who we've always met in previous censuses and we expect to be here are not here. I'll give you an example from the family of Shimon. One of the tribe of Shimon, one of the families is the family of Ohad. They're mentioned in the book of Shemot, chapter 6. They're mentioned in other places. Here, all of a sudden, they're not mentioned. And for the rest of the Tanakh, they're gone. The family of Ohad has disappeared. Within the family of Binyamin, it's even more glaring. Because Binyamin had 10 sons, each of which created a clan in its own right. We look at our Sidra, there are only 5. From the Levite families, there are a bunch of families that are missing. Where did they go? That's clue number 1. Clue number 2, where did Aaron die? So we know from a couple of weeks ago that Aaron died at Hor HaHar. Moshe takes him up to Hor HaHar, and that's where he died, and his son Elazar became the Kohen Gadol in his stead. And yet, if you look in the book of Devarim, chapter 10, you'll see that in fact it says Aaron died at Moseira. Aaron died at Moseira. Then you go to Masay and you say, okay, hold on a second. Did Aaron die at Hor HaHar or did Aaron die at Moseira? You take a look in the upcoming Sidra where it charts the Jewish people's journeys through the desert, and you see that Moseira is actually 8 stops behind Hor HaHar. They were at Moseira and then they went to 7 different other places before reaching Hor HaHar. So hold on a second, there's confusion as to where Aaron died, and there are a bunch of people that are missing. Our third piece of evidence is that we know that when Miriam died, the water that the Jewish people had with them disappeared. Right after Miriam dies, the nation thirsts for water, complains, wants water. We know that the water came in the merit of Miriam, and we know that the clouds of glory came in the merit of Aaron. So it's not impossible. I'll show you how we're going to make this supposition, but this already is mini detective work to propose that it could be that when Aaron died, the clouds of glory disappeared the same way as when Miriam died. The well disappeared? Not impossible. Shortly after Aaron dies, it mentions that the Jewish people were attacked by one of the tribes in the area, the Canaanite king of Arad. So there was some kind of attack as well. Fine. Now let's start putting all of these pieces of information together and we come out with this dramatic story. Our sages say that after Aaron died, indeed the clouds of glory disappeared. Then it says, what they understand to happen is that the clouds of glory, which served as a sign of Hashem's presence with the people and also to protect the people, certainly from the elements. We see right by the splitting of the sea that it even protected the people against the Egyptians. So we have the protection of the clouds of glory. The clouds of glory disappear, they're attacked by a nation in response. Now, one thing we know about the people many times throughout the Torah is that they are hesitant and not, they are more courageous people than the slave nation that comes out of Egypt. They are very brittle in a sense. It doesn't take a lot to really make them turn around and say, we need to go back to Egypt. So I just say what actually happened was, that's exactly what they said. And not only this time, previous times they always said we're going to go back to Egypt. The rabbis tell us this time they did it. They turned around and they started traveling back to Egypt. 8 journeys back they were going to go. It's not just talk, it's not just not words. They went. They were traveling back and back and back and back. The Levi'im chased after them. The Levi'im were always, the ones protecting the honor of Hashem. The Levi'im chased back after them, and what happens? A civil war. The Jewish people want to go back. The Levi'im say, you have to go back. And they actually break into open warfare between the tribes. And many of the Jewish people are killed. An entire family is destroyed from the tribe of Shimon. 5 families destroyed from the tribe of Binyamin. Other people lost. With the Levi'im themselves, they lose families in this battle that's fought. Finally, the conclusion is the Levium 1. The Jewish people come to their senses. They're going to turn around and go back to the land of Israel. But they stop and they do some soul searching. What is it that caused us to come to this point? And they say what it was we never mourned properly. We never eulogized properly at the death of Aaron. When Aaron died, we never gave him the proper honor and respect that we should have done and spoken about his qualities and spent time breaking into groups and having public mourning and speeches in honor of this man. We never did that, and that's what led to this. That's what the Yerushalmi and Sota says, the story that it puts together, and I've shown you some of the clues that come over here. One reflection that I had, how is it that they're not mourning properly for the death of Aaron? And that's because it says when Aaron died at Moseirah, the Jewish people mourned for him. Right? So the implication is that's when he died. Even though technically he died at Horahar, he didn't die for them. They just kind of moved on. They had gone back to Moseirah, had this terrible tragedy, had the eulogy, reflected on his death. That's when they mourned. That's when he died for them. My proposal is, how is this linked to Aaron's death? The Jewish people said it's because of Aaron's death we should mourn for him. My proposal is that the clouds of glory would have remained with them had they mourned properly for Aaron, had they eulogized Aaron properly. The reason that the clouds of glory disappeared was because they didn't really take into consideration who Aaron was, the debts that they all owed him, the way that he loved peace and pursued peace and helped so many of them. They didn't take the time to really stop and talk and think about that. They let Aaron go. And because they let him go, the clouds of glory went. Also, the attack by the Canaanites and so on. Had they really taken the time to appreciate and value Aaron for who he was at the time, I propose that the clouds of glory would have stayed and that the entire tragedy would have been averted. We see many, many things from here. This idea of the detective work in the Torah, looking for the clues, piecing it together into what actually happened. And the value, of course, of the righteous person, of appreciating them, of mourning for them, of eulogizing them, remembering them for good, so that they never truly leave us. Shabbat Shalom.